first met Uwe and Nena back in the 80s, doing TVs with them. And then at one time they actually came over to England to our studio and I met them then. And I suppose Uwe for Nena was like Ricky, my brother, was for me. So the musical maestro, the one without whom it could not have ever happened. And obviously watching Nena's amazing re-emergence along with Uwe's fantastic production and writing and the way he's worked with her. But it was actually after meeting him that I really knew that he was the right guy for this project. I was fairly sceptical about the project at all for quite a long time before we started doing it. And it was really only when I met Uwe and I looked in the whites of his eyes and he told me why he wanted to do the record and the ideas that he had for it. I just knew that it was in safe hands, and that he, in fact, was the only person who could actually probably do it. So it was a very fortuitous meeting and the moment that turned the whole thing around for me. So he's been pivotal to it. And in the process, I've had a great time getting to know him. He's very funny and makes me laugh a lot. And I love being around him. And he's full of an amazing amount of energy. But you don't really want to get in a car with him. He drives like a crazy guy. But you see, I'm a tortoise, you know, I'm sort of like this. But yeah, he's Speedy Gonzales. But we did quite a lot of work in the car because he got to drive me from Hamburg to JL's studio at JL Park for several days. Several memorable days for many reasons, not least of all his driving. And we did quite a lot of work in the car, and I was playing him stuff that I was listening to, and we were kind of getting to know each other. And also, I mean, he speaks very good English. I don't speak any German. But sometimes language might let us down. I might not be able to express in words what I wanted to say or how it felt or anything. And he had the same with me, but that we got to a point where it didn't really matter anymore. When we were in the studio, there was a very pure stream of communication that felt like it didn't need any words. So that was very exciting and extremely creative. And I think the album is a testimony to that. A deal? No, well, you know, I asked her if she would do it, really. I just said, you know, would you like to sing on my album when it happens? And she said, sure. So it sort of just happened. Very easy, really. And I think she's got such a different voice to mine, and I think when our voices combine, it's really interesting what happens. So I was really chuffed. I think Hanging On was a really good choice, and has really reinvented the whole song and the production on it and everything. It's very fresh. During the time when we were promoting the record, we spent a lot of time together and have a lot in common. You know, we both love children and we're both interested in education, and we're both born-again rock chicks, and we love having fun, and we love looking after ourselves and being healthy, and so yeah, we've got a lot in common. And she inspired me a lot, you know, because she really does take care of herself so much, and she kind of motivated me to do a better job at that myself, which is good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to working with her again on this project, because our lives are very busy. Of course, mine's in the UK with family and all kinds of commitments, because I have another career over there as well in horticulture and journalism. So I haven't seen her for a while, so I'm looking forward to catching up, hearing all her news, which there is a lot of, I understand. I'd love to work with Rufus Wainwright. I think he's gorgeous, and I think he's one of the most exciting songwriters I've heard for a while, but I've got a very open mind on working with people. On the album I got to work with Charlotte Hatherley, which was fantastic. She used to play with Ash and now she has her own solo deal, and she's someone who I really have a high regard for. I think her music's great and her voice, and I think she's tomorrow's future bright star, and I'm very pleased that she came to do Kids in America with me. In fact, we asked her to do guitar and she turned up at the studio, and I, at the time, was having a bit of a problem with Kids in America because I couldn't quite get my head around the fact that I was doing it again after all these years. And although I love how Uwe had produced it, I was still having a problem having a direct relationship with it again, and justifying a good reason to put it on an album. I wasn't quite convinced. And Charlotte was due in to play guitar that day, and I thought, you know what, it would really make sense for Kids in America would make sense for me if she sings it too. So when she turned up, I said, would you sing on Kids in America? She said, sure, I'll do backing vocals. I said, no, not backing vocals. I said, I want you to sing it. So she kind of looked a bit, oh God, you know. And she said, I'd love to, but you're going to have to go shopping because I'm not going to do it with you in the studio. So I went shopping that afternoon instead of being in there and let her get on with it. And when I got back and heard what she'd done, I was so chuffed. And it brought Kids in America back to life for me again as a new recording. It's very different singing it live. That's different, you know, that's kind of, I've been doing a lot of 80s concerts. Singing Kids in America is the most natural thing in the world, in a retro sense. But then presenting it again as a new song, I was having real problems with it until Charlotte's involvement. And when she finished, I thought that song is great and I want it on my album, and that was great. The comeback trail happened very gradually. It started from a point of complete indifference and no interest at all several years ago, which was pretty much when I got married and when we had our family and our children. And I turned my back on the music business, and that was my decision then, and I've had a new life, you know, a new passport, a new name. You know, my married name is Fowler. And it was very exciting. I'd grown a bit bored, really, of myself and of the music industry. And when the Spice Girls came along, I thought, I've got to get out of this business. This isn't a club I want to be in anymore. Actually, I've since learnt to appreciate their finer points, but at the time, it was the final straw. I thought, I'm off. And I got married and had the children, and then I got asked to do these 80s tours, and I thought, well, and then I did them, and I had a really great time, and I really enjoyed them. But that was after about 5 or 6 years. So that's when it started. That's when I started to think, well, actually, I've turned my back on this industry, but actually it's still in my blood. It's still in my veins to stand up and perform and sing. And hey, people are liking it, and so am I. So I'll go with it for a little while, see what happens. Then I got involved in a project with my friend Helmut Fest, who wrote me in to do some vocals for Born to be Wild. And again, it was a project that I had to be convinced to do, because I didn't even like the song Born to be Wild. And I said to Helmut, this is the main stumbling block. I said, I'm very flattered that you want me to do it, although I know the reason you're asking me is because my name is Wilde. So that's actually the main reason he asked me. I said, but I don't like the song. He said, well, don't worry. He said, go in the studio with Jo at Jo Park. He said, and if you still don't like it when it comes out, he said, we'll both walk away and we'll be, you know, no one loses anything. So Jo, who's worked on the new album, did Born to be Wild, and I just thought it was fantastic. And so that was another kind of thing that, it's really odd, you know, the touring I had to get talked into, then I had a great time. Starting to record again, I had to be dragged into it, and then I had a very good experience. And now I've just given into it. Now I just kind of like, I'm there, I really love it, I'm really glad I'm here. I think it's fantastic that it's a comeback. I'm very up for it. And so from being completely indifferent, I'm really motivated and really believe in the project, and I think the timing is perfect. And But we shall see. I don't know, when I got out of the pop business, which was around about 95, I'd become really disillusioned with the music industry. It was just, I felt it was flat, and I didn't like the music I was listening to, and I didn't like how the industry was going. It seemed to be more industry than music. It had become more business than music, and I just thought, oh, I don't belong here anymore. And anywhere, I felt like I'd outgrown it, and I had outgrown it. And I think the public had outgrown me, and there was another wave of music to come. And I don't hate the Spice Girls that much. In fact, I really like some of their records, but at the time I just thought, no, I don't belong here anymore. I feel like I should get out of this club and see if there's somewhere else I belong. There were a few times in my career, well, a few times in my life, really, when I was tempted, really, to say, I'll never do that. I'll never go back into the industry after walking out of it. I'll never do an 80s retro thing. I'll never have a comeback. These were thoughts that passed through my mind, I think, directly. I left the business and got married and had children. But after doing the 80s tours and having such a fantastic experience with those and really loving it and enjoying it and being quite good at it, really, I thought, actually, saying never is really dull, and you should never say never, because life is a way of really surprising you sometimes. And of course, my life took an amazingly different course once I did get married. I sort of ended up going back to college and getting into horticulture and becoming a journalist and an author and a medal winner and all kinds of things. If somebody had told me that, I thought that would never happen. And so now I'm sort of like, anything can happen. So I guess never say never for me is a rather exciting statement, because it opens up possibilities for absolutely anything happening. And I have had amazing things happen in my life. So that's why. So goodness knows really what's coming in now, but I know it'll all be good. I have absolutely every confidence of that, whatever that is. Well, I guess in James Bond movies, you never know what's going to happen, and it's full of surprises, and so yes, I guess there are some parallels there. Well, when I initially first met Uwe, after I spoke to him for a while, I realised that he had a genuine passion to do the project, and he had a great appreciation of what was really good about me back in the day, probably more so than I did myself. It's very hard to look at yourself objectively and see sometimes any good in it, and for a long time I didn't. I just didn't want to hear Kids in America ever again, let alone sing it, let alone re-record it and put it on an album. I mean, these are things that were just like never going to happen. And he convinced me in one short afternoon about the whole project. And so I thought, you know what, Uwe, you're the person who can choose this stuff. You know what you like, you know what you can do with it. You're the one that's going to be twiddling some knobs and doing your magic. I trust you. And I gave Uwe my baby, and I said, there you are, you look after it. Yeah, the first time I became aware of Charlotte was when I got sent, she sent me her CD of her first album, her first solo album, and it had a track on there called Kim Wilde. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to expect. I was thinking, oh no, maybe she's going to write this awful song saying, oh, I don't know. You know what I mean? It could have been like one of those You're So Vain songs, that Carly Simon wrote about, Mick Jagger or whoever she wrote about it. So I was like, I put it on thinking, oh, please. But it was really great. I really liked the record and the references to me and my songs. But more than that, the rest of the album was really challenging, really exciting. And I loved her voice. And I just thought there was something majorly cool about this woman. And I thought, I have to meet her. When this was a year or so ago, before the project even happened, or was even a seed to grow. So once the album started coming together, I got in touch with her and arranged to meet her in London for an afternoon tea. And we had a really good laugh and had loads in common. She's the same age as my little sister Roxanne, and I was so impressed by her, and I went really to meet her as a fan, really, and just mentioned that maybe she might like to be involved in the album, and she was really up for the idea. So I haven't seen her for a while because she's been busy doing her new album, and I'm really looking forward to seeing her again and playing at the new tracks. But we had a fantastic experience in the studio, and when she came to do her guitar, and ended up doing the vocals for Kids in America, and it was a really fine day. I won't forget it for a long time. Well, my sister's been recording for some years now. You know, she formed a band called the Dime Stars, and now she's signed to Wall of Sound, and she's doing lots of different writing projects. She's just come back from Sweden doing a massive amount of writing there. So she's sort of, she's on the radar anyway. But it was the song itself, I think, you know, Forgive Me required, the part that she sang was the voice of a planet. So how do you kind of find the voice for a planet? I would say there's an innocence to her voice and a naivety, but a strength as well. And I felt that she had the perfect voice for the part of talking back to humanity. So she has she has all the innocence and what is beautiful about our planet, but she's got a lot of strength as well. So yes, she spoke for our planet. She sings for our planet, and she does it beautifully. I don't think anyone else could have sung it. Well, he's written loads of the songs, obviously, not just the old ones, but quite a few of the new ones as well. And it was great writing with him again and recording with him again. So I'm just really chuffed Ricky's all over it. I remember my initial meeting with Uwe, and he said, you know, we want to capture the best of what was great about Kim Wilde, and one of the greatest things about Kim Wilde was Ricky Wilde. And I thought, oh, thank God he said that, you know, because that's for me absolutely essential. Without him, I wouldn't be here. Simple. And so great, Ricky's all over it. That's very, very good news for me and very good news for everyone else. He's written some of the best songs he's written in years, and he worked really well with Uwe, which was very exciting, and together with Uwe, Ricky and myself, we wrote a few songs together and they came out great. It was interesting, actually. It was as if I had only just walked out of the studio the day before. So it was really like riding a bike. As soon as I got in, it was like, yeah. So it felt very comfortable, really easy. Easier than it has ever been. Well, we wrote and some of the songs a couple of years ago. It's been quite a long time in the making, this album. But we started recording, I think, probably at Geo Park in Hamburg, and where I recorded Born to be Wild. And then we did some recording in London at my old recording studio when I was signed to Mickey Most Records. So that was an interesting experience, going back to the studio where it had all begun, and then it was kind of odd, actually. And but I was really glad it was there. There seemed to be, it just seemed to be like a really good thing to do, to go back to where it all started. It made sense, yeah, even though Mickey wasn't there. But I felt he was around there, watching. It was a really, it had its moments. It felt like the natural place to go back to where it all started, go back to the beginning. There was something really, you know, kind of something that felt very right about being back in the old studio. A lot of the people who still work there, who worked there back in the 80s, a lot of people, There's still the same paintings on the wall, and the kitchen still looks the same, and the carpet's still the same, and the curtains, and the studio is all so familiar. Yet there we were, all these years later, doing it again. And I felt it was the right place. It was sad, you know, that he wasn't there. I do feel, though, that he was there somewhere in the building. My husband informs me that voices mature around the age of 35, which was around about the age I stopped singing. And when I started singing again for the 80s tours, I kind of realised that I had this new instrument. It felt like it was did what I asked it to do. It was much better behaved than it had ever been before. And because I met Hal doing a year of theatre, I had really learnt a different technique of getting a lot more voice out of me anyway. So although pop singing is different to theatre singing, which is a whole other thing, which is I find quite hilarious sometimes, because my husband's a theatre singer, and when he tries to sing pop songs I laugh, and when I try and sing theatre songs he laughs. And it's a different thing, but to have all that extra energy, it's like having a whole big power pack. And I'd never experienced that before, so I like singing a lot more now, and it's much easier. I think my voice is a lot stronger. Well, I mean, it's very identifiably Kim Wilde sort of 81, except it's kind of bigger and better. So it's not like we've sort of turned our back on the past and tried to do something completely new, although it's very fresh, but it sort of borrows all the best bits from the past and kind of the best parts. Sorry, I'll say that again. It borrows the best aspects of what was great about what the records we made from the past, but it just drags it into the 21st century, shakes it up a bit and just kind of re-delivers it. So it's identifiable, it's recognisable even, except there's something different about it, and that's the magic of a combination of production, obviously, the songs themselves and my singing. Well, it changes from time to time. At the moment, if you ask me to put on a track from my album, I'd probably put on I Fly, which is a pretty fast sort of sexy rock track. And I really like the upbeat, the up-tempo songs a lot. The ones that make you want to jump up and down. I like those ones. There's quite a few of them on the album. I mean, what can I say? Where do you start, really? I think, my life is in a much better place, because I guess when I was in the 80s, I was always looking around corners to see what was around the corner, and then I'd get to the corner and I'd get to look round, and then I'd be looking for another corner to look round. So I don't tend to do that anymore, and it's a much nicer way to live life. So it's about sort of taking in actually what's right in front of you instead of looking for something that's round a corner. So as you get older, as I've got older, I've learnt to really live in the moment and take stock of what I've got and value it. So that's a different person. That's a different person to the person who's looking around corners. So that's a happier person, a more confident person because of it. But that's a lot to do, obviously, with being married to my husband, Hal, and our children, and our dog. So I've got I'm really happy, I think is what I'm trying to say, and that is a very precious place to be, and I recognise it. Am I nervous about what's going on? I'm really excited about it. I have a really strong, positive feeling about the whole project, one way or another, but I'm like that about life, really. It's how I live each day and each moment of my life. So until I'm proven otherwise, everything is fantastic. and it's going to be fantastic, and one way or another, You know, as far as I'm concerned, my life is fantastic, and every day I treasure and think is precious, and whatever happens, and you know, I'm prepared for it all, really. Whatever. I don't feel any pressure. No, that's why I'm enjoying it so much. The pressure's off. You know, I had a career that was full on pressure. This doesn't feel like this time. I've made a choice to do this. I don't have to do this. So I've come into it from a completely different perspective, and from a totally different point in my life. If anything, I think there's a potential to enjoy it a lot more this time around than the last time. I think I value it, the good parts of it, more than perhaps I used to value. Perhaps I took some of it for granted. So yeah, I think whatever happens now, I'll appreciate it a lot more than I used to. Either way, I know we've made a fine album, and that's great for my kids. Yeah, Rose does. Rose wants to be a rock star. Yeah, and she probably will be. Harry wants to be in a band called, what did he call it? He had a band name the other day. What was it? The Outcome. Oh no. Harry wants to have a band called Shut Up. And he's written his first song, and it's called Dead. He's only 8 years old. He showed me the lyrics, oh my God, and he'd been listening to Guns N' Roses, and oh dear. I said, don't you show those to your grandmother. Don't show it to anyone else, otherwise you'll be taken away from me. Yeah, he's on stage all the time, yeah. He's 67 and he enters his 50th year in show business or music business next year. And his voice is stronger than it's ever been, and his live performances are fantastic. And so I'd like to think I might be able to do something with him next year for that. Yeah, very proud of him. He's a great granddad. He's a very good granddad as well. Not a great granddad. Oh, there definitely will be, yeah. I've really loved doing the 80s tours that I've done in the last few years. Really enjoyed them. I'd love to put a tour together. I'd absolutely love it. I think certainly it would be one of the first things we'll be talking about putting together. Yeah. Well, it was really hard work. Did my back in, had great fun, fantastic fun. Met some brilliant people. Who I've subsequently worked with as well. You know, the world of horticulture is full of really wonderful people, creative people, passionate people, funny people, hard-working people, talented people, generous people. But the music industry is like that too, you know. And there are some arseholes as well. They're not just in the music industry. I can tell you they're in horticulture as well. So the world's the same all over, really, and it's the same mixture wherever you go. You know, there's good and bad, hot and cold. Well, next month the garden's in quiet time anyway. You know, we've harvested most of the vegetables apart from the pumpkins. And everything's going over a bit. It's not great. I feel glad really that it's not the beginning of the year when everything's going mad, and then you really do need to sort of keep on it. This kind of late summer period, it takes care of itself until the autumn, and then the autumn you do a bit of a clear up, and so it'll be fine. I can fit it in, or I can get my husband to do it. Do you know what? I think it's a great idea, but I'm not sure I can remember most of it. I've got a terrible memory. I would like to write a book, maybe not so much autobiographical, but maybe telling stories that kind of express things that have happened to me in a different way. So I guess making it fiction, isn't it? Fiction, yeah. yeah, just kind of. So it wouldn't be like, oh, and then I kissed Adamant, because I did. But no, I wouldn't be telling you about that. But, you know, I have lots of things I'd like to say about my life and what's going on and what happened and putting it into some kind of context. Yeah, I want to find a way to do that. But I'm sure that will become obvious as time goes by, because I love writing. And, yeah. Well, the reason I did theatre was it was during a time when I was feeling I'd outgrown the music business anyway, and then I think I mentioned before, I got a script through from Pete Townsend, and the script was for Tommy, and I thought, it's got my name on it, I've got to do that. But I had to go to the audition, and that was a pretty scary thing to do. I'd never been to an audition in my life, and there was Pete Townsend, all these people sitting behind a table, this great big room in Covent Garden, and I sort of walk in and had to sing Smash the Mirror, which is what my part was, Mrs. Walker. Ooh, I never want to have to do that again. I'd never want to audition for anything again in my life. It's a nightmare. But I got the part, and Pete was fantastic with me and told me I was the best Mrs. Walker they'd ever had. And I said, I bet you say that to all the Mrs. Walkers though, don't you? So, and of course you know, if it hadn't been for him, I wouldn't have met my husband. So I love Pete Townsend. No, you're joking. You have to be joking. I'll tell you one thing, Hal isn't. He's not a jealous man. He doesn't operate like that, you know. And anyway, trust me. But no, after having spent a year doing musicals, I vowed I'd never do one again. Mind you, but it was really hard work. It was 8 shows a week. It's exhausting. I don't know, I never wanted to sing another song after having spent a year singing those songs. But now, of course, you know, I have other considerations. Of course, the children. 8 shows a week and children just doesn't add up. But, you know, maybe some of the older roles in the years to come, you know, when I'm in my 50s and 60s, that could be fun. You know, some of those older roles are far more interesting. Much more interesting characters. That could be fabulous, yeah. Once the kids are off backpacking around Australia and in their new band, Shut Up. Yeah, I thought that Germany handled itself with a lot of class, and the way that it presented itself to the world, and the football tournament and everything. It was just really, really cool. So I have to congratulate you on that, and doing so well in it. Fantastic, very, very good. And I was gutted that we didn't get further, but you know, those British players, what can you say? They're a bunch of mummy's boys. They should have their bum smacked and go home. Where was I watching the football? I've watched it in a few different places, mostly with friends, you know, and yeah, beers and chips, and lots of shouting at the television. You know, so there were some classic moments. I mean, absolutely beautiful. Headbutting, fantastic. Who'd have thought of that? Who taught him how to do that? I mean, when I saw him do the header, which he missed, which I thought was just incredible. I mean, just the power of Cézine's neck and the way he did that. Oh my God. And then when he headbutted him, fabulous. Especially when you found out why he did it, I just thought, this is just amazing, really. Show business, I love it. No, I think I've said far too much already.